This is about showing people the advantages that we gained by putting better drainage in outside our new patio that we put in about 2020 or something like that, in order to get water to drain away from the south side of the house, the walkout side of the house, so water wouldn't build up on the patio, the little patio, and then run backwards into the garage, into the basement. And when we did that, it certainly did have the desired effect. What we didn't realize is that the clay soil that we are in, we're in this heavy clay soil. So when we had the new house built in 1992, we really made the basement a concrete boat. I mean, it's a solid concrete boat. And we put in, I think, a foot or a foot and a half of drainage rock underneath the 6-inch concrete that we poured concrete walls, and so on. Anyway, and we tiled both inside and outside. And then we have a sump pump in the northeast corner of the basement, which is toward the uphill side. And then that drains out the south end to daylight. So that works, it generally works well. So a number of years ago, heck, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I decided that I wanted to see how often that sump pump was running. So I bought one of the little kilowatt meters that you can get in a lot of places. That you just plug into the wall, and then you plug your device into that, and then if you push the right buttons, it records the number of kilowatts used in any period of time. I started recording that value on an Excel spreadsheet. And so now many years have gone by, and depending upon the climate we've had a lot of rain and maybe not so much rain and what have you. But what I've been recording was the number of hours that the sump pump has run. And I'm not doing this on a regular basis, like every third day or once a week or something like that. It's just sort of whenever I feel like it, which maybe has pluses and minuses to it. But anyway, that's what I did. I read it and recorded it often enough that that on a monthly basis or quarterly basis or annual basis, it is a very good representation of the amount of water that the sump pump has had to move. And we had some really, really wet years in the 4 or 5 years leading up to about 2019, I think it was, when we actually built that new patio and did this improved drainage. And the point that I want to make with this whole thing is that, wow, what a huge difference installing that drainage, which was actually taking water from like a foot or so below the concrete basement slab and draining that right out. Anyway, so I have graphs of each event that happened. I have a graph of each time that I went downstairs and read the meter. I did graphs of the amount of kilowatts each time. I would accumulate those by month. And after like 3,000 days of doing this, I think that sump pump has actually taken more than 400 kilowatts, by the way, and it's a 1/3 horse sump pump. And it only has to pump the water up about a foot and a half or two to go to the underfloor drain to the outside world and 100 feet away to the south before it exits onto the edge of a field. It just, the improvement, the reduction in the amount of time per unit, month, day, week, year, is just very, very dramatic. And I suppose I should show a graph or two of that, the simplest graphs, because some of them are complex and that only a father could like, One issue that I had to face was that the kilowatt meter loses its mind every time there's a power failure. And some years we've had more power failures than others. And so what I have tried to do is to record the kilowatt hour usage often enough that I don't miss much, if anything, if that kilowatt meter resets. And so I have one column in my spreadsheet that just records what I saw today, so to speak, on the meter. And then immediately when I bring that information to the computer and add that to the spreadsheet, then I sum that to the cumulative that I have been running in another column. So that even if I lose one or two readings, that cumulative column is not dependent on the previous columns. And so I do have a good cumulative reading for the whole period. I should probably comment that there's a newer brand out that doesn't lose its mind when there's a power failure. And I even have one that I've been testing for a year or two upstairs on my electronics bench. And I don't know why I don't put it down there. I guess I don't know why. I just don't. But my system works pretty well for me. Now this count of sump pump hours is kind of interesting in that it also gets that sump also gets all the condensation water from the air conditioner, the central air conditioner. We have a central air conditioner, and all the water from the A coil goes down into that sump too. So in the summertime, particularly when we're air conditioning a lot, there's probably a couple of gallons a day, maybe up to 3 or 4, seldom 5 if any, because I've measured that, gallons a day, which is maybe 1 minute of sump pump running to get rid of that. And then we also have a dehumidifier in the basement, and that one probably does a gallon and a half a day also, per 24-hour day.
Now that we've heard about what we did and how we did it, let's take a look around the place to see what I have been talking about. This will include somewhat of a review of the first half of this video.
The only water that we have ever had in our basement came in through this patio door. We have a sump pump in the north end of the building. This is south, downhill. The sump pump has always done a good job of draining the area under the slab, but it couldn't get rid of water at the extreme south side of the basement, which is right here. That is the area just outside the patio door, since the soil's clay layer outside the foundation acted to trap water just below the level of the sump pump, pump's sump at the north side of the basement. You can see that the ground falls away as we come around the west and east sides of the house. Okay, and of course it runs down to here. There are curbs on the patio and always have been. This is the third patio that we have built, and we've finally totally solved the problem. And the original problem was that the first patio concrete level came just below those doors and was just barely level. We had that patio removed a number of years later and had a new one put in that still came just below the patio doors, but it did drain to the south, in other words, toward me here. Unfortunately, because of the heavy clay soil, water would pool underneath the slab and actually tilt the outer edge of the slab uphill. So water would pool right there in front of the patio door, and when we had a lot of rain, it might even sneak over or around the curbs here, but it also just kind of came up out of the ground and would occasionally get to the point where water would seep in underneath that door. Never did any real damage, but it certainly made a mess that we'd have to clean up from time to time. Now I'm looking to the south from the patio. In another video, I explained about digging a trench about 18 inches deep all the way out to daylight in the field. That's a little over 100 feet long, and refilling it with large river rock. And when they finally rebuilt this patio again for the third time to get the drainage right and give us plenty of room between the top of the patio and the bottom of the door, we actually put like 18 inches of river rock underneath this whole slab so that we would get good drainage. We hadn't realized up till that time that the clay layer was just so bad around here that even though we were downhill, we almost had like a lake underneath this patio. And so now this whole system just drains great. It looks like it goes uphill, but it actually slants downhill at 1/8 per foot all the way to the field out there. Here we're inside the walkout basement looking toward the south at the newest patio, and we can see the drainage rock and so on. So that's just kind of a reference to where we're going. I might also add that our sump pump, which I'll show in a minute, drains out here and goes to daylight over by that tree. Now we're in the northeast corner of the basement looking at the sump and the sump pump that does the basic job of taking water from the tiling, which goes both inside and outside the outer walls of the basement and all collects right there, and then pumps toward the cameraman here, as I mentioned, all the way out to daylight, 100 and some feet away. And here's just some extra sump pump stuff that I've collected over the years so that we could pump water off of the patio before it would actually make it into the basement, which we now don't have to do at all anymore. Thank goodness. So now, and I know we've got a messy basement, I'm just going to make the point here as I turn around and we look outside. I don't know if that's even a view worth showing. Outside to the south where the water now drains a good 100 and some feet away from the house, and we no longer have a problem with water even getting close to the basement, either inside or outside, since 2019.
Again, here's the final result for all to see. So you can see that we made great gains and learned some good lessons during this whole process. Thank you for watching.